But I had one more piece that probably won't take too long, and then we can wrap her up. Is I've been I've been increasingly observing. Just so we were in Dallas on the weekend, okay, and we had a clip years ago of you talking about the cost of hockey, okay, and you were saying like when you played Bell Tire, it's like you'd play here and then you were in Boston and then you would look at this team from LA or whatever and you'd be like, how did you get across the country like 3 weekends in a row or whatever, right? And so
Yeah.
I
So
was
let me just clean it up.
go ahead.
So it was. There's. I guess there's no other way, or maybe there is. But we would be in Detroit, and we'd be hosting a showcase or a tournament, right? And you'd see, your first time you say, okay, you're playing Los Angeles Junior Kings, the Colorado Eagles, and the Dallas Elite or Stars Elite, and the Boston Advantage, and you go, okay, well, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Like these kids came to Detroit for a tournament. That's cool. Then we'd go to maybe it would be the next weekend. It would be in Boston or Cleveland, or we would do our showcase somewhere else, and then we would see LA's there again. What? They just last weekend were in Detroit. And like when I look at the map, it's like LA is way on the west coast, and it's south. And they came, and I'm like, wow. And then Dallas again, and Florida or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And then we'd see it 3, 4, 5 times a year. I'm like, how did you do this? Because I was sitting there going like, you just went across the country, and I know it's not $40 to bring a whole team. Like, how do you do it?
So
I digress.
right, so now we are said team. Here we go, full circle 3 years later, and it's not that bad. We had one that was really our only real far one. So we were in Dallas, and I'm watching. My point is not about the cost necessarily, though it's worth noting, but I'm looking at just what these kids have available to them, and I don't. They just don't know what they have. They just don't know what they have. Like they don't have a good grasp on what their parents are providing them by allowing them and paying for them to do this stuff. They don't have a good concept of taking advantage of the ice that they're on or taking advantage of the off ice that they have or the different resources that we have here. Like I'm watching, like I gave the example a few weeks ago and again this weekend of just like we do nutrition class every week and guys are eating gummy bears and whatever on before the game kind of stuff. Um, and I'm just like reflecting on it, like they just aren't taking advantage of what opportunity they have, and I don't know if there's a way to increase that or get them to realize it, or is it that philosophy of just we're throwing mud at the wall and hoping something sticks, and maybe it'll click for them at some point and just keep providing, keep providing, keep providing until somebody realizes it. Or is it something that's inherent to some kids that will grasp it and some kids that won't? Or like how do you increase the amount of kids that really take it seriously or take advantage, not even seriously, just take advantage of the resource that they have? Or is that an unbreakable law that some kids are just gonna you'll have your very small percentage of kids that really take advantage of it. You'll have a group in the middle that are like kind of meh, and then you'll have a group of kids that just don't care about anything. And I'm really thinking about that a lot because of what we have here now, the program that we have, and how much we actually can offer some of these people and the dollar, like the actual value they get per dollar being here. And it's like just some of the kids aren't capitalizing on it, And is that something that we can break and try to get more kids into that upper echelon of caring, or is that just an unbreakable thing that you can't really combat? And it's like I don't know if that's a question or just a
No,
thought
it's
or
an
like
observation
what
and a
are
question. It's an observation and it's a question. And I think the longer you live life, you can just come up with an opinion. I have zero scientific basis for anything I'm going to say. All I can look at as I could use my life experience as a human. I think I'm a human. Okay. As a hockey player, as a hockey coach, as a hockey dad, as all whatever things I am. And I look at like my first initial thing is like you could what most people would say, yeah, kids are just spoiled now. And I would say, yeah, but that's relative. I kids have so much right now that um I don't know if they could ever appreciate it. What we have here. I don't think a guy that lives with a dad that played in the NHL really appreciates what his dad could offer him. I know my son appreciates a lot and he shows a lot, but then there's times where he just goes, "Okay," and then it always comes back to like what I said was actually important. But it's like, yeah, but your dad. And then after he goes, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. So let's just go back in time, right? When people played hockey, everyone played on an outdoor rink, right? Then certain teams and certain leagues, cities started to build rinks and stuff like that. So you were like, do you think the people, if you played in an indoor rink all the time now, do you think you would appreciate that instead of having to be outside all the time? Well, no, you get used to it. You just go, okay, this is where I play hockey. Or when I was playing hockey, it was indoor rink, so I'm not, of course, like I'm not 112, right? But I remember going to tournaments and we play the Toronto Marlies. Like we had socks and my first couple of years it was socks and jerseys that matched. So if you had red pants with your blue and black whatever jersey, oh well. We'll go play the Toronto Marlies, the Toronto whatever. You didn't have to be Toronto to have it, but they had matching everything plus bags plus, and I'd be like, can you imagine? It's like being a pro. Do you think those kids thought anything like it was a big deal? Right? They might have had a really good coach, and then some kids had I don't know. You move on, and it got better and better, and then you had good organizations, and with a good, then it gets to the point where you have a place where you have your gym. I'm talking about this, a gym. BioSteel is here to sponsor you and to make a great experience. You have great teachers. You got a really good coaching staff. You're on the ice 5 days a week, 4 days a week minimum. A training program, they're not going to, they don't appreciate it. They like it, you think, but it's like if you get familiar, right? It's the same thing as playing hockey. When people go and they're on the ice every day, or they play spring hockey to regular hockey to this, and they're on the ice all the time. It's like you don't really appreciate hockey. You're just going to the next one, and you get used to every environment you have. So the question, my opinion on your question or your comment is, I think it always will come down to some people get it and some people don't. Some people want it, some people won't. Some will, some will, some won't. So what? Um, I I I don't know if people can appreciate it. See, because when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. My dad was a butcher. Then he wasn't a butcher. He did something else, and it was like he was a loan provider. Then he went out for ice cream. Then he never came back. Right? It was like, "Where's the ice cream, Dad?" It was 12 months ago. Anyways, but we didn't have a lot of money, so I say this to this day. I've said it to so many people. I didn't care about the car we drove. I didn't care if we had great food at home. I didn't care about one thing. I love my brothers. Didn't care about one thing. All I cared about was I got to play hockey. So I'm one of those guys that appreciated hockey. I loved it every single day. I can tell you, and people tell you they caught a fish this big, but then they tell you it's this big. That wasn't me. I loved hockey. So I would be fuming pissed if someone picked me up for practice, like because we had these 7 o'clock in the morning practices every Saturday. Mr. Rose set them up, and I sometimes my mom was able to give me a ride. Most times I have to get a ride, and I'd call this one guy who was a goalie who would pick me up at around 6:15 to get us to downtown. And I knew if we can get there at 6:30, I'd get all my gear on. All I had to do when I got to the rink is tie my skates on, and I could get out there and I could get half an hour by myself. Another guy would pick us up at 6:30, and so if Mr. Chisholm couldn't pick me up, then I'd have to call this guy, and I'd be like pissed because that's 15 more minutes of ice. That's how I did it. So, and I would do the call. My mom didn't call and say, "Can I have a ride?" I'd have to make the call. And I was so excited about every ice. And I wanted to get on the ice, and I practiced, and I loved every second of it. Mr. Rose would take us upstairs and make us run, do plyos. I didn't appreciate it as much as I really should have, but I did it, and I did it because he was my coach, and I wanted to respect him. I wanted to do it my best, right? But I loved hockey. Other guys could not. They'd come to the rink, tired. How can you be tired for hockey practice? I don't care what time in the morning it was. If 6:30, 7 o'clock practice in the morning for me was like, are you kidding me? I don't sleep. I'm excited, right? Other kids would walk in like, oh my God, it's early in the morning. And it's like, well, you don't love hockey, right? And that's what you see here as I'm making that comparison is they get on the ice every day and some kids are here and ready to go. Most kids are here because 8:30 in the morning I'm practicing. I sit here and I go, are you nuts? What do you mean? How can this be negative in any way? I'm tired. I'm sore. If this was my life, I would never have missed one day of school in my life. Never. I would have loved school. No, really. I'm not even trying to be funny. I would have missed one day of not one day of school. I would have came here maimed.
Yeah.
I would have, I would, seriously, I could be puking. There's no way I would miss school if I had hockey in the morning. Right. And but that's not everybody. And that's the thing. You either love it or you don't. And if you love the game and you love getting better or whatever you want to say, you're just not going to teach that. Right. So I think the hardest thing to I think just in society is like when you are just given things, and I'm not saying this because they're spoiled. And some are for sure. But the more you're around stuff and the more you get stuff, the less you appreciate it. Right. So I think that's probably half the battle. And then you either just really love it or you really don't. And if you really love it, and then you will appreciate it. And then if you have this part could be on parents, and I will say that probably is. I'm just trying to think of an example we had the other day. Anyways, when there's a part that the parents play into helping them appreciate it, or maybe showing them that what you have, right? And if it's called respect, it's called whatever, and explaining, edifying the people that you should be edified, meaning build up the people that should be built up. So like, if I was, well, I do it with my son. I do it with my son. He's gonna be a pro. Like he plays in the OHL, man. And when we talk in the summer, if we ever talk, and we say, "Hey, how's your coach?" Whatever, and I go, so he said something, a couple things last night. I said, "Charlie, that's a big compliment, man. Big compliment coming from your coach. And because you get used to him, right? Guy won 2 Stanley Cups. He's telling you good things about what you are doing and correcting you on things that you couldn't be." I'm like, it doesn't get any better. You got a guy you're talking about scoring goals, and he's showing you some things. It's like absorb it, and like But if I don't tell him like your coach is like I can help you. There's no one more experienced than this guy. He might never know. Might not really care, right? And I mean that's an extreme, but as you're growing up in life, it's like when you're raising your kids, I think it's really important to show them what they should appreciate. Do you know what I mean? What they should appreciate, what they should appreciate. And it's like it could be as simple as, I always said this to people, and I tell it to almost every group that I ever have. I go, one of my rules is that you're gonna work hard, and number two is you're gonna have respect, because the respect thing pisses me off. And I always said that if my son came home at school, even though he hated school, if you come home with a D in a class, that's one thing. I can deal with a D. We could sit there and say, okay, did you try? Well, I did. Okay, you didn't. Right? Well, but if you did and you proved to me that you did, it's like you just didn't understand it then, right? And then if he goes, well, and then you realize, oh no, he's just dumb, right? You're just a dumb kid, right? Or you didn't try. It's an effort, but you can pinpoint D, right? You can pinpoint what's the D. I might be able to help you with some, or we could default to you're an idiot. No, it's true. It could be like you're mentally challenged. You don't know 2 + 2. It's a twister here, or whatever, right? And that's okay, because then we could navigate through life a different way. Maybe you have to work with your hands. Maybe you have to think about things a different way. Maybe we need to teach you how to solve problems with a tutor or something, and you're going to work through it, right? But the disrespect thing is a whole different thing. And I said, "What if you ever came home and the note or the phone call or the whatever that your kids were very disrespectful or they did something disrespectful in class, then it's like World War III. You can't disrespect people that are in, even sometimes that, even if they didn't earn your respect, they are your teacher, they are your coach, they are there is a certain amount of respect you have for them. If you're disrupting other people's lives in class, in the on the ice, whatever it is, it's like that's a no-no. So I think as parents, I think it's very important that we teach those kind of basics, so that when things that should be appreciated are, or at least you have a chance to appreciate it, or you do get a grasp of things. I think it's good to show examples of people of without shoving it down their throats, but like showing examples of commitment, showing examples of um, people that do things the right way, and then I think your children have more of a chance to emulate that or to appreciate it or to understand those qualities. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, I do for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all. That's good shit, man. I
Yeah.
was enthralled
Yeah.
by your conversation there.